Today on the TMZ Podcast.
Welcome to the TMZ Podcast. Derek and Jaime here.
Hello.
How you doing, Jaime?
I'm okay.
All right, it's Thursday. Let's jump right in to Mike Pence. Mike Pence we haven't seen him on the scene in a little while. He was at Georgetown for an event, and he said something extremely interesting when presented with a question about whether he would vote for Donald Trump if he's the 2024 nominee for president. Here, take a listen.
Mr. Pence, if Donald Trump is the Republican nominee for president in 2024, will you vote for him?
Well, there might be somebody else I'd prefer more. You know, what I can tell you is I have every confidence that the Republican Party is going to sort out leadership. All my focus has been on the midterm elections, and it'll stay that way for the next 20 days. But after that, we'll be thinking about the future, ours and the nation's, and I'll keep you posted, okay?
So let's lay a little context here. He obviously pauses after he gets the question, and he gives a little cringy.
Turned because I think he was waiting for like an eruption of applause, and it was just like
it was crickets. Because Mike Pence is a very skilled politician in a lot of ways. He's not a particularly funny guy, and so when he gives a laugh line, what he thought was a laugh line. In a crowd that is inclined to, I think, sort of like Mike Pence.
And these are younger. These are college kids. This is out of college, and it was just silence.
A lot of young Republicans out there and just crickets.
And I don't know whether that maybe no one in the audience took the hint, or if they just genuinely were not excited at the thought of him.
That's interesting. So I don't know. Look, colleges are typically quite liberal institutions, but I think if you go to a Mike Pence event, it's a young Republicans.
But you're also. I feel like
he's a
if
big
the vice president
name.
Came to my school, I would check it out, regardless of party.
So let's break this down. Obviously, the question is presented because the end of Donald Trump's administration was a little rocky for Mike Pence. A lot of people blame Donald Trump for sending the horde of people into the Capitol to try to hang him. And so that probably doesn't sit well with Mike Pence. So his answer is, I'd prefer we have another nominee. However, there's another reading of this, and Harvey thinks this is potentially plausible, that he's also saying, I might vote for a Democrat over him. I don't think that's what Mike Pence is saying.
Get that even a little bit.
I know. So Harvey's saying the question is, though, if Trump is the nominee, not who should be the nominee, but if he's the nominee, would you vote for him? And to not say, yes, because I'm a Republican, you're leaving the door open that you may vote for the other option.
I don't think that's what he meant, what Harvey said, but thinking about it now, I think he hates Donald Trump so much, Mike Pence,
yes,
I'm talking about, that I think it would not be crazy if he did get behind the other candidate and support them.
Yeah, look, I don't think he would ever publicly support a Democrat against Donald Trump. I don't think that would ever happen because Donald Trump and Mike Pence are not friends now. It's hard to be friends with someone who you think tried to have you murdered, but they're aligned on a lot of policy issues. He is not anywhere near where the Democratic Party is right now. So even though they have a personal animus towards each other, I doubt you would ever see Mike Pence sort of
disagree.
At a rally for Democrats.
I don't think he'd be at a rally, but I disagree.
Really?
Yeah.
You think he would cast a vote? He is aligned with Donald Trump on all the issues.
Of the Liz Cheneys, the Dick Cheneys,
fair.
Nothing is crazy. He, as you mentioned, he tried to get him murdered, and
yes.
It's funny that you say that he came out in the end rocky. Mike Pence, I think, if anything, and I'm coming from the other side, who would have thunk that Mike Pence maybe was a little bit of the good guy.
It's wild because when he first selected Mike Pence was the symbol of the evil Republican Party of yesterday.
Gay conversion therapy.
Yes, the sort of old school, like really nasty views about gay conversion therapy and all that kind of stuff. But now, next to Trump, it's all context, right? Next to Trump, he looks like kind of a professional politician who wears suits and doesn't misspeak all the time, doesn't say nasty things about disabled people. I mean, he's a sort of normal politician in those respects, even if his views are very far right. I think he's going to make a run. I take this comment as I'd prefer someone else is a nod to I'm that someone else. I'm going to throw my hat in the ring, and if the Republican Party, we want to save the soul of the Republican Party, go with me. I'm as far right as you can be, but I'm also normal and not human. Disgusting. Yeah, I'm not boorish, and we can actually win elections with me going forward. So he'll be an interesting candidate because vice presidents typically have a good chance of assuming the mantle. Joe Biden was a vice president. You just have a very high, very public profile just sitting next to the president for their administration. You know, Biden sat next to Obama for 8 years. So people think, oh, he could do that job.
Yeah.
You know, he could just slide over into the next seat. And I think Pence is in that situation as well. He's also tainted by working for what is considered the most sort of disgusting administration, but he managed to keep himself pretty clean during it, right?
Yeah.
I don't think he was dragged into the muck
No.
like others who really just dove headfirst into the nastiness. So it'll be interesting to see. I don't think he'll ever vote for a Democrat, but it's an interesting sort of thought experiment. Let's move on to Kanye. Tell us about Kanye.
Oh, God.
You'll walk us through where we are on anti-Semitism and Kanye.
So, welcome to the Kanye Corner, day 2092. He went on Piers Morgan.
Yep.
And I think he thought he was going to have a different experience. Piers Morgan loves to stir up things, but he was not having it. He was calling him out on the DEFCON 3. And for people at home, I know it's DEFCON 3. If you're not following, Kanye used the term DEFCON 3.
That's right.
Going DEFCON 3 on Jews, and he was not going to let Kanye off the hook. He was just saying, you know, this is, let's listen.
Yeah.
Question for you is, do you now regret saying
I update
DEFCON
every
3
day.
on Jewish
update-
people? Are you sorry you said that?
No.
I don't think it matters. You should be.
Absolutely not.
You should be.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, but yeah, you should be.
Absolutely not.
When you insult the Jewish people and say you're going DEFCON 3 on the Jewish people, that is as racist as anything you say you've been through and any pain that you've experienced. It's the same thing. Racism is racism.
So look, I have pretty complicated views on this. I think giving Kanye a voice and a platform to speak these views is problematic. But if you're at all to have someone like that on a big television show, but if you're going to do it, you got to do what Piers did. And I think Piers
And he
really
did
held
back him into a corner.
He backed him into a corner. He was not kid gloving it. He didn't want a rationalization. He was sort of scolding him, almost like a child having these views. He was saying, you know this is wrong, yeah. You know. You know that what you're saying is hateful, is ignorant, is perpetuating sort of tropes and lies about Jewish people that can cause them harm. You know this is wrong. And he painted him there, even though Kanye said, no, I don't regret it. And he forced Kanye to sort of own these views, which I think now highlights that this is just gross, right? I mean, we're past the conversation of whether he's going through a mental health episode because it wasn't a rant on Twitter anymore. This is now a man who's been pressed on this on several occasions. He was pressed in the street by a photog who said, did you really mean what you said? And he said, why do you think I said it? Tried to sort of like give it context. He was pressed by Piers Morgan and gave it more context. He said, look, I'm sorry for any other people, but these people who wronged me, yeah, I stand by saying DEFCON. The problem is that's anti-Semitic because he thinks they wronged him because they're Jews. And what it perpetuates is, to me, the nastiest stuff you can have about Jews. I would prefer if Kanye said Jewish people have horns. I really would, because then it's absurd. Then it's like sort of so nasty, but like almost, like grotesque and weird. And no one believes that Jewish people have horns. People do believe that Jewish people are conniving
You're
businessmen.
worried that people can rationalize that he has a point.
Yes, that's what I'm worried about. Is it pushes this narrative that has followed Jewish people for centuries, that they are conniving, people you can't trust, deceptive money lenders who are grubbing for you and looking to take advantage of you. And people are inclined to believe that. And so when you put that myth out there again from Kanye West and say, look, I'm a victim of Jewish people doing these kind of things, I think it creates a really problematic situation.
Well, it is. And we've talked about this over and over and over. At this point, that we just, when someone says something, just believe him. Believe him. He's saying what he says, and we need to stop convincing ourselves, well, you don't mean that, right? He means it. So now my opinions are changing. I get it. Kanye West does not like Jewish people. And now I'm looking at Piers Morgan, and I don't think he's the hero. I'm thinking you knew exactly what you were doing. You're bringing this man on. You're getting clicks. You're getting views. You look like you're a real hero, Piers. Like, look at you laying down the law.
Right.
Enough. We got to stop.
You think just choke the
Enough.
oxygen from this. He needs to be sort of ostracized
Yes.
from mainstream thought and not on
And
television
every time
shows.
we ask him, well, explain yourself more. Explain yourself more. It's us looking for him to say, oh, I didn't mean that. What I meant was, that's not coming.
You're right.
He has said what he thinks. Let's move on.
You're 100% right. We're waiting for him to be taken to task and walk the comments back.
Yes.
And he has shown us time and time again, he's not walking anything back. And as a matter of fact, he says, I'm going to fight fire with fire. Like,
Yes.
he feels as though the wrongs done to him justify the rhetoric that he's propounding now. and it's gross. I don't know what to say. You're right.
We're
We've
looking
asked him
like
now.
clearly
Yeah.
he's confused. He's not confused.
No.
So let's stop.
Yeah, we've got it. We've got it on the record. This is what you're interested in. Now, I go back to this time and time again. And before we move on from this topic, I do want to know, look, he was in this office and said, slavery, that was a choice, but it was during a really erratic episode. And I do think that felt different than what we're hearing now, right? It felt like he was like on one, and sort of saying stuff. And it's like, here's a real deep thought. They chose. And then, he has walked that back somewhat as well. I don't know how you get back from this to like a person who I would ever buy a record from, buy a piece of clothing from. This is hateful, like really far afield stuff. I don't think we'll see Kanye circle back to the mainstream from this.
I haven't thought that in a very long time.
Yeah.
And I don't know why you would think that today.
It dawned on me, though. Didn't he come back to the mainstream after the slavery was choice?
They reined him back. He didn't transform back into a different human being. They censored him, and Kim and Chris made sure that you put down your phone, Kanye.
Right.
Stop tweeting.
Right.
And now he's just a wild animal on the loose.
Oh, it's really disheartening because I do think he's there are elements of him that are a genius artist. I mean, as a musician, as a fashion designer, as an entrepreneur, there are a lot of good things about Kanye, but it is so clouded now by this stuff that I can't even celebrate the other stuff. It's very strange.
See, I can
You can
separate.
compartmentalize?
I can listen to Gold Digger and be fine.
Yeah, I guess that's right, because he was a different person.
Yeah.
It's truly a change in him. This was the guy who, remember famously when he stood next to Mike Myers and said, George W. Bush doesn't care about black people. He was a
felt
hero.
that way.
He felt it
Yes.
deeply. He's a guy who's like very emotions on the sleeve, and it was such a raw moment, and it was what people were thinking about the response to Katrina, and it sort of was this exaltation of like, someone needs to just say it. He's not treating the people of Louisiana well during this, and he said it, and it was like a heroic moment. We're so far from it.
Yeah.
It's very strange to see someone take such a radical departure from what they were in your mind. I find it very sad. I'm at this point where like I'm sort of done talking about him, and I'm just at this like sad resignation about
acceptance.
Kanye. Yeah, exactly. I've run the whole gamut.
You have.
All right, let's move on to some. Well, I don't want to call them fun stories, but tell me about this Arizona politician. You're from Arizona.
I am. I spent most of my life there. But I was not born there. I would like to just make that clear.
Already distancing yourself. Go ahead.
I was born in Los Angeles. There is a man, Randy Kaufman. Any relation to you, Derek Kaufman?
Old cousin Randy. What's he up to?
Okay, well, not good things. Not good things. So he was running for in Arizona College District's governing board. And he suspended his campaign on Tuesday because he was arrested for masturbating outside of a preschool.
Yeah, when you hear those words put together, masturbating and preschool in the same sentence, it never ends well, right?
No,
That's not the sentence you want out there when you're
usually.
running for office.
No.
Give us a few details. What happened? How did he get caught doing
Here's
this?
the thing. He was out buying rebar. And
those are those metal bars you put
Yes,
under
in
concrete to reinforce
construction.
it. Yeah.
And that can be very stressful.
And look, those shops are always right next to a preschool. You got to buy your rebar where you got to buy your rebar.
So this man, Mr. Kaufman,
We'll call him Randy.
We'll call him, okay. Randy went out, bought his rebar, was so stressed out that he needed to pull over and he needed to release that stress. So he parked across 3 parking spots. I will give him that it was not directly in front of a school.
Right. Nearby.
I can believe that it was just a wrong place, wrong time.
Wrong place, wrong time. Parking across 3 spots is not the most discreet way to masturbate in your car. I do want to say, act like you've been there. If you're going to do this impulsive move, I'm not saying I've ever done it or would ever do it, but you draw a lot of attention when you're across 3 spots.
You do. You draw a lot of attention. Also, nobody called 911. Because he was parked so oddly, just a police officer passing by was like, oh, well, I want to make sure everything's okay.
Yeah, could be in distress.
Pulled over, might be having a heart attack. Well, he wasn't. He had his pants down, masturbating too. I like this little tidbit. This shows how Arizona this story is. The police were sure to include that he was watching interracial porn.
Right. They made a note of the type.
Which in 2022, I believe we just call porn.
It's porn. Yeah, it's just porn. There's no need to modify it with the races of the people involved. It's a very strange note. It feels very Arizona.
Very Arizona.
This is in all seriousness, this is a sad story. It is. I don't want to go too hard that it is a headline to say he was near a preschool, but we're not trying to insinuate that he was necessarily masturbating to the thought of preschoolers. You can be caught in an unfortunate sort of location when you need to masturbate.
Well, and unfortunately, they were outside at the time. They were on the playground. So it wasn't just a building, not every building, but unfortunately, the kids were outside at the time.
It's not good when you have to explain that I was just in the neighborhood for some rebar and happened to pull over to park across 3 spots and quickly masturbate in front of a preschool. Like it's not something you want to explain to an officer. So look, it could be a one-off situation. I hope it's not sort of indicative of some weirder pathology or perversion. I'd say stop running for office. I'd say not only suspend the campaign, I'd say just move on to construction work and rebar.
Yeah, change your name. Yeah.
Specifically change your last name.
Change your last name.
I would appreciate that. So yeah, a very, very strange story, but hopefully that's all it is and it doesn't get any darker than that. But let's move on to our last story, which, I want to hear I'm genuinely curious about your thoughts on this. This is Kylie Jenner talking to her sister about the baby blues.
Yes. So she is saying that, she's got saggy tits and she's got the baby blues, but the saggy tits are not making her sad.
Yeah.
So she's talking about she's had her second baby and she said that she cried nonstop.
Do we know the name of that baby yet?
No, we don't. It was named Wolf in the beginning, and then she regretted it, and they have yet to release the name.
So it's the baby that doesn't have a public name yet.
Go on. To be honest, you really don't call a baby by their name until they're like 1.
That's
You're
true.
like, the baby's sleeping.
It's the baby.
Baby.
You're right.
But she said that she's very happy about her body. She said they're saggy, but I feel good. I look good, which is great.
She's talking to her supermodel sister, Kendall.
Yes.
So this is my question is she convincing herself that, like, I'm cool with this, I'm cool, it's totally fine, I like looking the way I look? Or is, she's also very close with her sister. I assume she could be perfectly honest as well, but is there sort of mental tricks playing, is she sort of getting herself to the point of, I'm okay with this by saying I'm okay with this?
No,
or do you genuinely just sort of embrace it?
Curves are her brand.
Yeah.
And that's okay. No, I absolutely believe it. And I also think that if you're Kylie Jenner, that things are fixable.
That's true. She's certainly fixed a lot.
Snap back in a few months. There's little tweaks we can do.
There was also, as I was watching it, I don't think of her in this sort of saggy way. I look at Kylie Jenner and she's still like a bombshell to me. Has there been such a dramatic transformation in her body since she's had 2 kids? She's so young. And when you have children this young, you had children very young, you do kind of just like look the same afterwards.
Yeah.
If you have them later, it is harder to bounce back. Just in general, as you get older, it's harder to bounce back from weight gain.
From anything.
But when you're in your 20s and early 20s, no less, she really does look like she just had a couple babies and looks like Kylie Jenner again to me.
And when you had a banging body to begin, she'll be just fine. But I did think it was nice that she opened up about her postpartum depression a bit.
Yeah.
She does not use that term because she says that medically, in her Google searches, if it lasts more than 6 months, then it is postpartum depression. If it's less than that, I believe that's what she said.
If it's less than that, it's called baby blues.
Baby blues.
Got it. That's the technical term as well.
Sure.
Is this a real thing? So
it is the thing. I've been very lucky. I've never experienced that. But your hormones are wild. They're
what do the
control.
blues come from? Isn't it a relief to get the baby out?
But your hormones are still, everything's readjusting. Everything's getting back to normal. There's a lot going on. So yeah, having a baby crying in your face at 2 a.m. is not ideal when you are not completely emotionally centered. But
you had no baby blues though.
Of course I had days where I was like, I'm exhausted. But
tell us about your baby blues.
And then after I'll tell you which kid I love.
Yes, that'll be on next episode. No, I thought this was a pretty real as the Kardashians get.
But in the same breath where she talks about the baby blues, she starts talking about her, postpartum going out and postpartum drinking and taking the PP, the private plane. So in like the same breath that I was like, I get you, Kylie. I was like, oh, I don't.
Yeah,
get
I'm
you,
so down to earth. Let's get on the private
Kylie.
plane and have some postpartum. It was a little bit insufferable at the end, but it's such quintessential Kardashians.
But that
it's like,
is her. So that's her reality.
You're
so
right.
I
It's
can't even
authentic.
get mad at it. It's like she does not know any different.
they're fabulously wealthy, and she's not going to say otherwise. There it is.
That's true. If
That's
she
her
said,
existence.
Yeah,
What is she
postpartum
supposed
road trip. Okay.
Yeah, she's not getting in a minivan. She drives the private jet. All right, that'll do it for us. Join us tomorrow for the last episode of the week.
Woo.
Thanks.